Now every swarming thing that swarms on the earth is detestable, not to be eaten. Whatever crawls on its belly and whatever walks on all fours, whatever has many feet, in respect to every swarming thing that swarms on the earth, you shall not eat them, for they are detestable. Do not render yourselves detestable through any of the swarming things that swarm, and you shall not make yourselves unclean with them, so that you become unclean. For I am the Lord your God. Consecrate yourselves therefore, and be holy, for I am holy. You shall not make yourselves unclean with any of the swarming things that swarm on the earth. For I am the Lord who brought you out from the land of Egypt to be your God. Thus you shall be holy, for I am holy. And this is the law regarding the animal and the bird, and every living thing that moves in the waters, and everything that swarms on the earth, to make a distinction between the unclean and the clean, and between the edible creature and the creature which is not to be eaten.
All right, thank you. The first thing that I want to point out is that God doesn't just say that these animals are unclean. They're unclean to eat, but they're not necessarily unclean in themselves. So a dog isn't unclean in that you're not allowed to touch it or anything like that. It's just that the corpse of the dog is unclean, and you're not supposed to eat it. And if you touch it, that there are things you're supposed to do to resolve that state. But the stronger thing here, I think, is that God says these are supposed to be detestable to us. And the word essentially means disgusting. We are supposed to see these things as disgusting because they are defiling if you eat them. It's like, in our culture, there are things, even in Cajun culture, there are things that people look at and say, that's not food, that's disgusting. But
it's like when I was eating sardines at my family's house and they were just like, oh, and I'm like,
yep.
you eat crawfish and shrimp, like,
yep. Yeah, but God says that all of these things, we are to consider them disgusting, whether we instinctively do because of our culture or whatever or not. We're supposed to cultivate that disgust reaction about these foods so that we're not even tempted to eat them.
Is that like an attitude of disgustingness?
It is. An attitude of disgustability. Repulsion. So there are 5 classifications here of unclean or animals that are unclean to eat. We've got land animals, basically what we think of as mammals and larger animals. For those, we can eat them if they have a cloven hoof and they chew the cud. One of these you can tell just by looking at it. The other one you have to watch the animal's behavior. For water animals, the rules are that it has to have fins and scales. Most of the time, this is pretty easy to tell. You just look at it. Does it have fins and scales? Then it's good to eat. There are some edge cases that we can talk about later. For birds, remember that the Bible doesn't use the taxonomic classifications that science does today. It doesn't have a kingdom of birds or whatever it is that botanists, whatever it is that biologists call birds. It classifies things mostly according to the way that they move and live. So animals that walk around on all fours, that's one classification. Animals that crawl around on all fours. And when it says all fours, it doesn't mean just fours. It means if it crawls around on all its legs. It's an idiomatic expression that just means it crawls.
Kind of like the insect.
We know they have 6 legs. And some of what they would have called insects, if they had that word, crawl around on 8 or 100 legs.
Yeah.
The next one, with birds, there's no specific criteria that we're given. It just gives us types. We can look at those types and get general rules from it. But if you don't know what kind of bird a bird is, you can't just look at it and say it has feathers and a hooked beak. Nothing like that. You have to know something about the bird. So like the category of hawks, the category of owls, carrion eaters, these kinds of things. Some of them are a little hard to figure out. Like a stork is unclean and an ostrich is unclean. Well, they both have long legs. Does that mean long-legged birds are unclean? I'm not convinced that that's really the valid rule, but God doesn't give us rules for figuring that out based on their physical characteristics. Sometimes he gives us lots of individual species from within a category. Sometimes he just gives us a category. There's a reason for it. I don't know what the reason is.
You do see like you said, the different animals, hawks. These are predatory carrion types, or trash eaters like pigeons or seagulls, But what about like a duck? You know what I mean? But that has a webbed foot. Throws it all out of whack.
Yeah, and some
different
people
color
will because it lists some water birds. Some people will say, well, it must be webbed feet, but that's not what it says. So that's adding to the rule. And if somebody's bothered by eating a duck, then don't eat a duck.
Well, true, yeah.
The next one are swarming things, and there are actually two categories of swarming things. There are the bugs, and there are the three if you count the reptiles. There are the bugs, the little swarming things. Then there are the lizards, and then there are the rodents. These are all kind of subcategories of crawling or swarming things is really the term. And it's a little weird because obviously this word doesn't mean what we think it means because it includes lizards that are solitary. Well, they're clearly not swarming. Geckos swarm. You see them on our kitchen window every night. We got like a dozen of them out there sometimes. But like anoles and monitor lizards, those don't swarm. So whatever swarm means, it's either an idiomatic expression or it doesn't mean what we think it means.
Yeah, it didn't translate.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in here that doesn't translate. But the rules really aren't that hard. With insects, none of the rodent or reptile categories are edible. They're all off limits. With insects, it says any that crawl around on four legs and have a big jointed leg for hopping in the back. Well, that's 6 legs, obviously. Different translations will say different words for them, but essentially locusts and grasshoppers. Some translations include crickets. I'm not convinced, but maybe. I would rather not eat any of them, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to have to eat them.
They're best
Yeah,
fried.
there's no command that we have to eat these things.
But I mean, insects is a common practice in many cultures, eating insects and ants and stuff like that. So,
It's all you got.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, some people, if you're in Korea, you're eating a lot of bugs, that.
Well, didn't John the Baptist eat
Yeah,
honey and
locusts.
locusts?
Yeah, the locusts are clean to eat. I'm just not excited to do it.
Yeah.
I haven't grilled them.
And back on the birds too, it's like it's kind of remarkable that even a chicken is considered clean. I mean, because we can't say like, oh, it's because like vultures eat dead carcasses.
Yeah,
Well, chickens do too. I mean, so that's can't be the reason necessarily, but chickens are pretty nasty.
And I'm pretty sure that a pigeon is clean, that you can even sacrifice a pigeon.
And a dove.
But in a dove, and they're carrion and they eat mice and all kinds of stuff.
So it's difficult
So-
when it comes to birds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there are some edge cases where it gets harder to figure out. Ducks is one of them. Like I kind of divide it in long-legged wading birds because they seem to all fit there, but that's not what the rule says either. So I mean, there are birds that
Robins
live
are
here.
considered clean. They used to be hunted.
What are?
Robins.
Yeah, there are no
Quail.
songbirds in this list.
Mhm.
So as far as I can tell, all songbirds are good to go. I've never eaten one, but
But it shows you guys compassion too when he talks about how not to take a young bird from its
Mhm.
mother, because there was a practice of that. Even Thomas Jefferson did it. They would tether their feet to the thing so they couldn't fly away for the mother to keep feeding them. I mean, that was like a practice.
Wow.
But the God has his compassion. It's like, it's probably best. It's like
Yeah.
boiling a goat in its mother's milk kind of thing.
yeah, even with clean animals, there are rules about what you can and can't eat and what you can and can't do with them.
Right.
Some of the ones that are a little more difficult are like tuna and sharks.
Mm-hmm.
They both technically have fins and scales. Tuna has very small scales on parts of its body, and you can see them if you look. But because they don't have scales on a large part of their body, a lot of people don't want to eat them. They consider them unclean.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
I'm okay with eating tuna because they do have scales that you can see. They're just not a lot of them. Shark has scale-like things, but they're tiny. You have to pretty much get a microscope or a magnifying glass to see them, and they're not made the same way as other fish scales.
Yeah.
So I would put those on the other side of the line.
And plus, it's a cleaner type of a fish.
Yeah, I mean, all fish are predators, so it's kind of, it's another one of those where it's kind of hard to make
Some
a
eat
real
fish.
clear rule.
And let's summarize it here. Why? Why are we doing these things?
Mhm.
Verse 45, for I am the Lord who brought you up out of the land of Egypt because I redeemed you, that you therefore be holy
Mhm.
as I am holy.
Yeah, that's something that Brian brought up earlier about he was talking about a conversation with his kids this morning about Nadav and Abihu. and how God destroyed them, burned them up because they took this unauthorized incense and offered it up to God in a way that he didn't allow. And I think that connects really well with this list of what not to eat, because we are a set apart people. I mean, we're supposed to be a kingdom of priests set apart for God. And then we go and fill our bodies full of stuff that God thinks is disgusting. It's the same thing as putting unauthorized incense into these censers and offering it to God. Like, well, you're taking something holy and mixing it with something that God didn't allow. It's the same as taking unclean animals and putting it into a holy person and saying, God blesses it. Or, I bless it in God's name, so I guess it's okay. And it just doesn't work that way. We don't get to set the rules.
Mm-hmm. And the purpose is, again, is sanctification, right? To be set apart, to be sanctified, to be his people. And an image that keeps coming up in my mind when we're talking about being unclean, because you touch this, and it's just to the evening. And a lot of that, the traditions of men of, not letting them go in the temple and all that kind of stuff, and having to constantly take a mitzvah and wash ourselves. And then it reminds me of in Book of Revelation, how we're supposed to have white robes. We're supposed to be washed, clean and washed. And so again, that's what it's about, is being consecrated to God, being consecrated to him in order to be holy as he is holy.
The idea of detestable, right? Like that in Hebrew, you can find that same word utilized for cases of idolatry, like Israel, they detested themselves, through worship of other gods and whatnot. And one thing that's really interesting is that the dietary law, you don't really find a punishment,
Mm-hmm.
and it's some of the only laws where there's not a prescribed punishment for what you do if someone's engaging in this. And I think Caleb Haig said this a while back. He said that from him, it began to become something that was all the more important, because it's one of those commandments that God gives you and he says, do because you love me. It's not because there's
Fear of punishment.
you can try to break it down and go into all the science and all that, but at the end of the day, it's a relational thing, is, hey, and all of us husbands know, our wife's just do it because I want, I want you to, and you're okay, and there's just stuff that just makes no sense at all. I'm I don't know why we're doing this, but.
We have our reasons to things out.
But yeah, I think that really Leviticus 11 is it's relational, and Brad brought up, he's saying, do this because, I'm holy. Well, that's God's character. It's a reflection of his infinite character of holiness and purity. And there's always the question that I like to ask people is could Jesus have eaten pork? Could he just have showed up on the scene just eating what is it called, a pork chop or some shrimp, and would that have been okay for him to break and go against God's? No, because it would have meant he sinned.
Mm-hmm.
And that sin is an offense against God's character, which is defined by his holiness. But
This is kind of a law written on their heart kind of thing. This is a response to his graciousness.
Yeah, that's something about what you were saying about Noah and the sacrifices, how God's commandment to him was given within that context of a sacrifice. The words, when he says, now all animals are food for you. Mm-hmm. People just read that and say, oh, all animals are food for us. But whenever you read something like that in scripture, all of this are this, it's usually talking about categories. Okay, now animals are food for you. It doesn't mean every individual animal is food for you. Mm-hmm. It means all of the animal kingdom is now available for food. Yeah. And so people take it far beyond what it was intended to say. And I think Noah, you're right, Noah knew what was clean and unclean. And I don't think he was eating pigs and lizards and all that stuff.
Nope. But when I read that as an English speaker from an American school, it says all food clean. That's all food. It says all. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That's what our mindset goes.
Yeah. And forgetting that God also said, all of the seed-bearing plants are food for you. But there were some specific ones that he said not to eat. So when he said all seed-bearing plants are food for you, he didn't really mean every single individual. He meant the plant kingdom is now food for you.
Yeah, it's like nuance and like, but it's confined by God's like actual commandments themselves, right? Like if I tell my son like he's like, hey dad, I'm thirsty. Okay, go get what you want. And he opens up Jay's refrigerator and there's like a bottle of Jack Daniels. He's like, oh man, whatever. Like we don't even. The funny thing is, like these are literary devices that we don't even use.
And he understands the
Own
boundaries.
time, like you know, you don't. When you tell like we have these confines in our own life because of our culture and our beliefs and convictions, but it's like why don't we do the same justice to the scriptures to understand that, like when, what is it, 2 Timothy 4, where he says that God had created all things to be received with thanksgiving. And people go, oh, you see, we can eat whatever we want, but it's like the same Timothy was raised in the scriptures, correct? And according to Paul, he's one of the faithful stewards who is delivering the Torah to the congregations and communities. So is what Paul's saying to him not supposed to be interpreted within the confines of their culture, their language, their context, you know, their history? Or are we just supposed to go in there and read this and say, oh, okay, as a 21st century American Christian, we can pretty much eat whatever we want? And we know that's not true because
Well, that's the new covenant, isn't it?
something like that, man. Oh, brother.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. But even the new covenant, right? Like Ezekiel 36, it says he's going to pull the detestable things out of their teeth. Like, that's a part of the new covenant,
Right.
you know? And it's a lot of people. That's the sad thing is we've been told so many times that we're a part of the new covenant, but we've actually never understood exactly what that covenant is, you know? Because the new covenant, if the Messiah is the initiator of the new covenant, go and read all the passages about Messiah showing up on the scene to bring salvation to not just Israel, but to the nations. And what's one of the main aspects of that is him delivering the Torah to them and causing them to walk it out. Right? That's the new
Sin
covenant.
no more.
Yep. It's like, I wish the new covenant was just, we make it up as we go. Because it'd be so much easier, you know? It's all subjectivity and there's no boundaries, there's no
But I
baseline.
mean, just like our children, you know, when they know clearly from us what we expect of them, and we're not just like one of those parents that's like, today that's okay, tomorrow that's not okay, you know, like for them to have those boundaries is actually comforting because they know what you expect of them, they know what to expect of you. There's security in the children. Yeah, for us, it's not great. I mean, I know people who raise their kids with, they're just like, whatever you want to do, you're going to figure it out. And it's like, those kids are messed up. You know, when they don't have any guidance.
And they hit this wall.
When it's a free-for-all, it's not great.
And it's learn everything from the world at that point, you know.
Yeah, boundaries are good.